Okay, so here's the thing. I'm having a bit of a conundrum. I'm trying to re-edit and remaster my 2005 feature film Falling Apart. And technically I've been trying to do this for about 5 years now. The movie was shot on digital videotape, mini DV tape, on a Canon XL1 back in late 2003. And we shot it on like 24 tapes altogether, so quite a few tapes. And I went through and I imported all of the tapes again in 2015. I had imported the footage back on my PC back in 2004, and that's when I did most of the editing. And it was kind of a destructive edit back then because I was working in Vegas Video 3.0 and I didn't have enough hard drive space, so I was, like cutting scenes and then rendering them out as AVI files and then deleting the raw footage off the hard drive, recutting new scenes, and then assembling all those AVI files together. And the end result was a DVD that was less than stellar. The render quality with so many generation losses wasn't great. And on top of that, I, for whatever reason, didn't render them out as anamorphic 16:9 widescreen videos the way that we had shot it. So the actual DVD is formatted where it's an actual 4:3 image that has the widescreen image in it. So it's permanently got the black bars at the top and bottom. So 2015 would have been the 10-year anniversary release, and I was shooting for that, but I was busy at the time, a lot of work going on and stuff, and it just kind of slipped by. And the next 5 years, there really isn't much excuse other than the fact that I kind of just let it slip by and forgot about it and so on and so forth. But in 2015, I did decide to do a remaster, and I at least imported all the DV tapes back then. I imported them with Premiere Pro into my Mac Mini, and saved them to a hard drive. So that way, at least I had all of the files imported as AVI files onto a hard drive. And now if the tapes deteriorated anymore, okay, that sucks, but no big deal because I at least have them on a hard drive now at least. So again, I tried to redo the master back then, didn't work out. 5 years goes by, 2020, I got some time off with COVID, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna recut this again. Well, I started working on it. The problem is when I started, and this was several months ago, Premiere and Mac no longer support those AVI files. Since Mac switched to the new 64-bit only file structure or whatever, and Adobe's followed suit, I can't open those AVI files in new versions of Premiere Pro anymore. It just won't work. And then Adobe, on top of that, decided to stop allowing people to download older versions of Premiere Pro. And then on top of that, I had a OS crash on my Mac Mini earlier this year, which resulted in me having to install a new copy of Mac OS Mojave. I had been running El Capitan, which meant that I also had to re-download my Adobe stuff. And well, I could only download Premiere 2020 because that's all Adobe offered me. And that version doesn't work with those AVI files. So my main editing machine that I use for editing, it works with everything else I do, like client work, all my newest footage, stuff like that. But all those old AVI files doesn't work. Doesn't work with those with Premiere Pro anymore, and that really sucks. So I've been having to try and find a solution, and so I have Premiere Pro 2018 on my MacBook Pro, and that does work with those AVI files. So one of my potential solutions is to just set up my MacBook Pro and edit off of there in Premiere Pro 2018, which is what I'm experimenting with right now. Yeah, I started all this a few months ago, but again, things got kind of crazy, and I haven't been able to get back to this project until now. So I'm getting back to it now, hoping to get it done by the end of the year. But the problem is I don't really want to edit on my MacBook. My MacBook is my everyday machine I use for everything else. I sit on the couch with it, I type on it. I don't want to have to set it up and hook up external hard drives to it and all this stuff to have to do the editing. I have my Mac Mini for my editing machine, and that's where I do all my other editing. Well, last night I experimented. It turns out DaVinci Resolve 16, which does run on my Mac finally, newer versions 16 and so on run on my old Mac Mini, whereas older versions didn't, like 14 and 15. I don't think 14 didn't. I don't think 15 didn't either. I didn't try it, but DaVinci Resolve will open those AVI files. So that's great, and I actually exported an XML file from Premiere, from my timeline, and imported it into DaVinci Resolve, and it does work. That's great, and I am liking DaVinci Resolve. The problem is I own just a free copy of Resolve. I don't own a full copy. To do that, I'd have to pay $300 out, and that means that I basically can't use any of the effects plugins and so on for doing any of the special things I might want to do without paying the $300. So that kind of limits me as far as what I can do with DaVinci Resolve, although I could edit the project straight through. So that's problematic because I don't exactly have the $300 right now to throw at buying a license for DaVinci Resolve. So I'm stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place here. My other option is I can transcode all of the footage to a new like ProRes format or whatever that will work with Premiere, newer versions of Premiere, but that's going to take a lot of time, and it's just going to take up a whole bunch more hard drive space too. And I don't really like the idea of transcoding files that were already captured as AVI files because, again, I don't know if it's going to degrade the quality at all or not, especially when I go to do like more color grading and stuff on this footage. So I don't really want to take that risk of doing that. Fourth option is to just recapture all the tapes all over again, which would take, upwards of probably 16 to 24 hours or whatever. Not all the tapes were 100% full. So, probably wouldn't take 24 hours for 24 tapes. It would probably take something closer to 16 or 18, but still, that's a lot of time. And I don't know what the quality of the tapes are in right now. And I can look through some of them, but, until you start importing them all the way through, you don't know if you're going to get any, dropped frames or anything like that. I mean, it's been 5 years since I imported those tapes, so it's another 5 years of them sitting on a shelf, essentially, aging. So I'd rather not rely on that. So yeah, I'm stuck here between a bit of a rock and a hard place, and I'm trying to find a good solution. A simple solution would be to just pay $300 and buy Resolve, but it's not the simplest solution because I'm not super familiar with Resolve. I've been editing on Premiere Pro for 10 years now. I know it like the back of my hand. Resolve is still brand new to me, and I'm like a toddler, just kind of like crawling around on it, like trying to figure out what does what. And while it would give me a good excuse to learn Resolve, like kind of like jump in the deep end, it's not something I want to necessarily do with a project this important for me. Something that, my goal is to make sure I get the best quality possible. It's a remaster. So I don't necessarily want to jump in the deep end with a new piece of software when I'm attempting to accomplish a big task like this. I'd rather use the tool that I'm used to and have gotten used to over the last 10 years. So it seems like my only real solution at this point that's viable for me is to just use my laptop and edit on that. And it's not a terrible solution because technically my laptop is more powerful than my Mac Mini. It's a newer machine. It's a 2017 MacBook Pro. It's got a dedicated GPU in it. It's got the same amount of RAM, the same hard drive space and all that, versus my old Mac Mini, which is a 2012 model. So really it is a more powerful machine for editing, and I did buy it to be able to edit on it, but I just haven't been using it for that. And I'd have to set it up for that, and I'd have to hook the hard drives up, and it'd have to basically become a dedicated editing machine for a while, which is not terrible because I did get a new iPad a month or two ago, and I have been using that as more of a daily driver, so it's possible to do that. It's just, and maybe I'm just whining and complaining for no reason here. Maybe I'm just, causing more conflict than it should be. But it's a bit of a conundrum for me. But yeah, so I'm still kind of cross. I'm like, well, maybe I should just go the Resolve route. Maybe I should just dive in that way, or I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, and it's problematic. So I'll update you in the future on how this goes.